Hello folks, the World of Warcraft anniversary event is now well underway, and with the event lasting 8 weeks in total, the WoW dev team have done their best to make sure that it will remain relevant for the whole time. And well, we all know what that means. There's going to be a bit of a grind. And even before it went live, there was already feedback about the drop rates of the event currency and the amount of time it was going to take to get all those juicy rewards. I mean, we're MMO players. We want to rip through the content in the first day so that we can go on to complain that there's nothing to do, right? Anyways, in this guide, I want to take a quick look at how we can maximize the time we spend in the event to make sure we can get all of the rewards that we want before it goes away. For this event, Blizzard are attempting something a little bit different. While the reward currency will initially be limited by time-gated quests and events, more on that in a minute, once you manage to collect 100 of the bronze celebration tokens, you're going to earn an achievement called Token Collector, which will unlock the ability to earn additional tokens from the various repeatable events. We don't know at this stage exactly what that will look like, but it almost certainly means that the tokens will end up being farmable. And if you have the time, the good news is you will eventually be able to get everything. Most likely for completists, this is going to be a pretty hefty grind. But if you're not a completist, then it should be a lot easier to get the things that you want, simply by prioritizing what you actually want to chase. So my first piece of advice is to take a bit of time to run through the various vendors and come up with a shopping list. For example, mount collectors will probably want to prioritize that Courthound or Deathwing mount, which are pretty cheap at only 20 tokens each. For transmog collectors, it's the tier 2 ensembles that will likely be the focus. Each ensemble costs 60 tokens, which is actually quite a lot compared to the early token drop rates. But the good news is that once you buy one of those sets, the price drops to 40, and then after buying a second set, it drops to 20 for the rest, with a total of 13 slits. The whole lot is only going to cost you 320 tokens. All told, if you're a completist, you'll be looking at somewhere between 395 and 485 tokens, depending on how many of the returning rewards you already had. So how does that compare with what we will be getting? There are a few one-off quests which will award between 8 and 13 tokens depending if you're a solo or a group player. 2 basic intro quests each with 4 tokens, and a one-off quest to do the new raid for another 5. The Kazilgar weekly quests and the weekly events all award tokens, and there's a raft of weekly quests from the anniversary event too, which are mainly technically group based, although for my maths I'm going to be treating the world boss quests as effectively soloable. What this means overall is that the tokens you can expect to get will look a bit like this. And so, unless you're fully solo, there's a decent chance that you'll be able to get the achievement to earn more of the currency by the end of week 3. But if you're solo, it's not quite so positive, as you're going to be waiting till about week 5. What this does mean is that for solo players, you're going to have to be fairly committed in order to get all of the rewards just by doing those weekly events and quests. This may improve once you get that achievement in around week 5, but we really don't know how generous or gated it will be. On the other hand, group players are going to be in a much better place, as all the extra tokens from the Chromie event and the raid will significantly speed things up for you. And that's before we find out what the new Guest Relations Secret event will award. As this is likely to be heavily aimed at solo players, this could well be a vehicle for those players to close the gap with group players, but I'm not holding my breath for that. If you're someone who really doesn't enjoy 11-week-long grinds, then as long as you're not a completist, you really are going to want to figure out early on how many of the rewards you really want to be chasing, and prioritize obtaining those over anything else. The various reward vendors can be found in the central area of the event. The Torrent Trader sells the tier 2 sets. The Troll Historian Maddie sells the new appearances based on Blizzard's long service awards to employees, along with a balloon chest toy and the option to convert bronze tokens into time-warped badges. And the human storekeeper Reginald sells the old anniversary reward items, including the all-important Corehound and Deathwing mounts. The bronze celebration tokens, though, are not going to actually get you all of the rewards. Mount collectors will, of course, want to get the new Cold Flame Tempest mount. And the good news is that if you're doing the grind for the tokens, you'll basically get this for free. The source of the mount is the event meta achievement, a cool 20 years, which requires that you get a bunch of the other event achievements. I have that one, asks you to match one mount from the Mount Mania mount off event. Mount collectors will get that probably with their first try of the event, but if you're just getting started with mount collecting, it may take you a few goes, but don't worry too much. The common mounts do pop up quite a bit. Fashion Critic asks you to cast a vote on the fashion event, which means that you don't even need to participate. All you have to do is to just turn up and vote for someone who is doing it. Because this does rely on other people being at the event and doing it, I personally recommend getting this one done quite early on when it's still very busy. Pet Mischief requires you to use a pet mirror to mimic the appearance of one of your pets. This is actually really easy to do, as you can get a mirror for free from a chest, which is directly opposite the pet area. Balloonist requires you to take a quick balloon ride. Just click on a balloon from the NPC up near the Caverns of Time entrance as they summon it, and you'll get a free AFK ride around the entire event area. It's actually surprisingly fun. Peanut Gallery is going to be the longest one to do. What you need to do is to sit and listen to Lore Walker Cho's stories and then hit the action button to react at the right time. You have to do that 50 times, so you're going to need to do several of these events before you'll be able to complete it. An original requires you to defeat one of the vanilla world bosses. Kazak is by far the easiest one to do. In my experience, Kazak is actually soloable if you have a decently geared character. That is not the case though for the other world bosses, and they will require you to get into a fairly large group in order to take them on. A Gatecrasher requires you to do the same for any of the newer world bosses in Dinars. They're going to be quite a bit harder to do, which means that the easiest way to get this done will be to do it on a reset day when there are plenty of groups up, and even if you don't want to join a group, there's a really good chance that if you turn up, you'll find a bunch of people already doing it. And finally, there's Codex Editor and Courage, which is to do the Codex of Chromie event. For hardcore solo players, this is going to be the hardest, as you will have to join a 20-man group, albeit it is queued content and it is pretty easy to do. So honestly, I wouldn't worry about it too much. And that's not where the new event rewards end. For those of you who raid, there's yet another currency, Time Warped Relic Coffer Keys, which drop from the new Blackrock Depths raid and can be exchanged for Blackrock Depths armor and weapon sets from vendors in the area. And then there's the new vanilla Timewalking event, which also has an associated vendor that sells a bunch of new stuff for Timewalking badges. As that's an event that will be added to the normal Timewalking rotation, I'm not going to dive very deeply into that here, but I do want to highlight the mounts. The Frey Feather Hippogriff costs 5,000 badges from the new vendor Bobadormu, but there's also 2 more mounts to come. The Amami Hunting Bear, which has been added to the Burning Crusade vendor, and the enchanted Spellweave Carpet, which will be on the Wrath of the Lich King vendor. There is, however, one set of exclusive rewards to the event that do require Timewalking badges to be aware of, and that's a set of new expansion-specific enthusiast titles. Now, speaking personally, I'm not going to be chasing to 100% of these rewards. As a mount collector, I will be prioritising the new achievement mount along with the Core Hound mount, which I wasn't around to get at the time it was first available. After those, I'll be grabbing the Paladin Tier 2 ensemble for my main, and that's actually only the must-have items for me. Most likely, I will eventually go on to buy whatever other Tier 2 sets I end up having some currency for, but by that time the pressure's going to be off and I'll be happy to just get whatever I end up being able to afford. This means that my personal approach is likely to be to prioritise just doing the weekly quests and activities, at least for the first few weeks. But over the longer term, once I unlock that achievement which grants extra tokens, I'll probably be backing off a bit, doing some of the easier events like the Mount Off or Lore Walker Cho, along with perhaps a weekly visit to do the world bosses. The daily reputation buff quest I'm probably only going to do as and when the other stuff I'm doing for the event completes it. An extra 10% reputation buff is all very nice, but I'm not sure it's really worth the amount of effort that would be required to complete it every day. I do plan to do the Blackrock Depths raid as and when my own raid team chooses to do it, but But as a 2-day-a-week raid team, we're planning to focus on Nereber Palace raid, so I suspect that this will be just an intermittent alt run, and I don't plan to go out of my way to do it every week. For Korak's Revenge, I did get the mount from a few years ago, and that grind was, well, a grind. I'm not a major PvP player, although I do dip in now and again, but Korak's Revenge was never really my thing, so that's definitely something I will be giving a bit of a miss. Will I get all the rewards? Well, time is going to tell. It does really depend on how generous the extra drops from the events and the secret event will be. But one of the good things about only really focusing on mount collecting is that with everything else being a bonus, I do have the option of opting out of these grinds quite a bit. Sometimes it's really good not to be a full-on completist. But what about all of you? Will you be grinding to get all those sweet completist rewards as soon as possible? Or will you just be heading over once for the vibe and then leaving it at that? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video interesting or fun, or maybe just a bit annoying, then let me and the YouTube algorithm know by hitting that like icon. And if you want to see more of my videos or just to support the channel, then make sure to hit the subscribe button. I'll be back soon with lots more content. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.